As you know, Maxxis is the name in the mountain bike tire game. Their three most popular rear tires are the Aggressor, Dissector, and Minion DHR2.
But what's different about these tires? In this video, we're going to talk about how all three of these ride and which one is best for you. We spent quite a bit of time riding all three of these tires.
Well, I haven't ridden the Aggressor, but Russ has ridden all three of them. I spent lots of time on the Minion DHR2 and the Dissector.
Before we compare all these, let's just do a quick overview.
The Maxxis Aggressor is designed for loose over hardpack, medium loose, and loose conditions. Maxxis says this tire has excellent all-around performance with good cornering control, but less rolling efficiency. All right, well, I haven't ridden this tire. Russ, what do you think? How does it actually ride in comparison to what Maxxis says it rides like?
Well, Maxxis claims that it's the slowest out of the bunch, but I would say that it's actually the fastest tire out of the bunch in my opinion.
All right.
Its highlights are really that it's just a really playful tire. It does very good in most conditions other than in the wet, but it's quick and lively.
Yeah, what conditions did you say that you like this tire in the best, like in regards to the dirt?
I would say hard pack to loose over hard pack. It packs up in the mud more than the others do, but it lasts a long time and it's a fun tire to ride.
Sweet. What would you say that the Aggressor does better than the other two tires in this video?
Really, the 5-star aspects of this are its speed and how long it lasts.
The Maxxis Dissector is designed for hard pack, loose over hard pack, and medium loose conditions. Maxxis says this tire has fast rolling center tread and large cornering knobs. They say this tire has good cornering control, but great rolling efficiency. Okay, so the Dissector is definitely the newest tire out of all three of these. It didn't come out very long ago, but we have spent some time on it. You've spent more time on it than me, but it definitely rolls fast.
Yeah, I've got a few months of ride time on it just recently, and it rolls fast. It is also a playful tire, kind of like the Aggressor, but it corners a little bit better in deeper soil.
Yeah, that channel between the center knobs to the side knobs definitely helps it dig in pretty amazing. And like I said, I haven't ridden the Aggressor, but if you say that it bites in the corners better than the Aggressor, then I would 100% trust that just by looking at the tires.
Yeah, it's been a great tire, and I would say in terms of style of tire, it's right in between the two. And really the only knocks I would give on it is it seems to wear a little faster than the other two.
Getting the rear end loose and drifting around, would you say that the Dissector or the Aggressor is easier to do that?
I would say the Aggressor overall, but the Dissector is not too far behind it.
It seems like the Dissector, once you break it loose, you might have a little bit more traction when you turn sideways to bite in and kind of control that sliding.
It's got a little bit more bite to it, and I really think it is kind of that happy medium tire. You want the grip, but you want the playfulness, and it kind of does both.
Yeah, so I think that out of all three of these, I would say that the Dissector is probably best at being universal in, not total mud conditions. If it's dry out or wet out, be pretty happy with it.
It's going to make the fans of grip happy, and it's also going to make the fans of a playful tire happy also.
And rolling speed.
And rolling speed.
And last but not least, the Maxxis Minion DHR2 has been around forever and is designed for loose over hardpack, medium loose, loose, and slightly wet conditions. Maxxis says this tire has excellent braking and cornering traction with great cornering control and good rolling efficiency. All right, we've been riding this tire the longest because it's been out the longest.
Yeah.
It does everything pretty well, and I think that it exceeds in bad, muddy, wet conditions over the other tires.
For me, I would actually rate it below the Dissector in true mud, just because of the spacing.
I actually didn't expect that, okay.
It does do well. I would consider it the most hooked up tire in the bunch.
The DHR?
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
In terms of just raw traction on everything, it's the least playful, but it has the most grip.
Yeah, if you squeeze your brake, your rear end will dig in and it'll slow you down.
Most braking traction, hands down.
Yep, if you're riding steep, gnarly stuff, and you want to be able to slow yourself down and control your speed the best, probably be the DHR2 out of this group.
Definitely.
Yep, it's gonna roll definitely slower than the other tires.
Yeah, I would, not by a ton. It's not a super slow tire by any means, but it is slower than the other two.
So the DHR2 over the other tires has just the best overall grip and traction. Rolls a little bit slower, but it definitely digs in really hard, either in the center or on the sides.
Yeah, if you want a planted tire that's just gonna stay put and be really predictable, it's a great choice.
Okay, now that everyone is on the same page of what these 3 tires are designed to do and then what we feel like they actually do on the trail, now let's jump into some comparisons. Okay, Russ, first off, we got the Aggressor and the Dissector.
Yep.
Russ, which one of these do you think rides better in the wet?
I would certainly say the Dissector.
Totally.
Hands down. The Aggressor's not a great wet weather tire, and the Dissector does very well in the wet, even though it's labeled as a dry conditions tire.
Yeah, so when you're riding in dry conditions, which one of these would you recommend for riders? And if I think that you're gonna say the Dissector, you're probably a little bit happier with, but why would you choose the Aggressor?
Well, I think if you're in dry and hard pack conditions, I think the Aggressor works great. It has plenty of traction in those applications. It's really when it's dry and gets loose underneath, like the powdery kind of trail conditions, that's when the Dissector really shines.
In regards to rolling speed and cornering, which one would you
The
say?
Aggressor has a faster rolling speed, I think, than the Dissector. Cornering is mixed. So cornering in loose conditions or loose over hard pack, I would go with the Dissector. Cornering on hard pack, the Aggressor.
You've ridden both these tires quite a bit. How do they hold up long term? Does one hold up better than the other?
Long term, the Aggressor's got more meat to it, and the knobs tend to hold their shape longer and get less undercut. The Dissector only comes in a few different sidewalls and rubber compounds so far at this time. So what I've tested has been double down and DH versions. Both come in the Max Grip compound.
Softest rubber.
And so obviously that's going to wear a little faster, and so but that's been my experience.
And we're hoping that they release more configurations of sidewall and rubber compounds that have the Max Terra with the double down and the downhill casings.
Yeah, double down, Max Terra, downhill casings, please Maxxis.
Yes. All right, now we've got the Aggressor versus the DHR2.
Two very different tires.
Totally. Obviously, this one's better in wet conditions. And obviously, this one is technically going to be a little bit more suited for dry conditions.
Dry and fast.
How would this ride in the dry versus how does this ride in the wet? Is it even worth it?
I wouldn't choose the Aggressor in the wet over the DHR under any conditions that I can think of. Dry is a different story, and it comes down to how you ride and what you like in a tire. If you want the most grip, choose the DHR. If you want a faster, more playful tire, choose the Aggressor.
And I think that the DHR2 really shines in this comparison as it's an easier tire to stick on your bike and not be super condition specific. Like if someone had this tire on the rear of their bike for the whole year, then it's going to be better than if they had this tire on the back of their bike for the whole year.
Certainly, and I think there's a reason why the DHR comes OEM on so many bicycles. It's easier for a manufacturer to spec it and not have to worry about the bike being good in certain conditions.
Yeah, the design of the knobs and the tread in general, it works so well that you'll see a lot of other companies have rear tires that come out that look very similar to it. They're not necessarily copying the tire, but they've noticed that this design just works really well.
Yeah, there's a reason why Minions have been the benchmark for a lot of tires for a long time.
Yeah, so you want to roll really fast when it's dry? Aggressor. If you want a really great universal tire that works better in the wet and works pretty decent in the dry, DHR2. All right, now last but not least, this is probably the most sought after comparison. That's the Dissector versus the DHR2.
Yep.
How do we even explain this one? DHR2 probably just better all-out grip, like we were saying before.
Yep.
If you want a tire that really grips and bites the soil and slows you down as fast as possible, DHR2. However, the Dissector's not very far behind it.
No, and I think, ultimate grip, like you said, both in the dry and wet or looser conditions, the Minion certainly wins that category. Pure mud, I don't think there's as much of a difference in brake traction between the two, just because you have a little bit more space in between the knobs here than you do on the DHR. So it does bite pretty well, but you know, those other conditions besides the mud, there's no comparison there.
And I haven't ridden the Dissector long enough to really tell about the long-term durability, but I feel like the DHR2 just has a little bit more rubber on the knobs. I feel like it will probably outlast the Dissector a bit. They're a little less paddly, and they just have more rubber in general. What do you think about that?
I would agree. It's going to be a little bit longer lasting tire. There is more contact with the ground, but then, you know, the Dissector has a little bit more playful, lively feel. It's a little easier to break loose, but it's really predictable in a slide. So if you like to kick the back end out and steer with the rear wheel, then the Dissector is probably more your game.
Sweet. Dissector rolls a little bit faster, and it's a little bit easier to get the rear end to drift. And the DHR2, it rolls a little bit slower, but has better overall all-out traction. Okay, now which one of these is our favorite? I think that your favorite is the Dissector.
It certainly is.
Okay, and I still am gonna stick with the DHR2.
I'm surprised you're not an Aggressor guy.
I've never ridden the Aggressor.
You like it, because you like semi-slicks.
Yeah, I do like semi-slicks.
It's the knobby.
I haven't ridden one this year though. It was kind of a wet spring, so I didn't put it on.
It's the knobbiest semi-slick that we
I just like the DHR2. You can stick it on, and it's a tire. It's a tire, and it works really good. And it just like go out and ride your bike.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
Less thinking or worrying. So not that I'm worried.
Yep. And I would pick the Dissector as my favorite, just because it is lively and playful. Still has good grip, but I like to kind of flick the rear end around a little bit, and I mean, you do actually more than me following you down the trail. But
I try.
Yeah. But
okay.
I need all the help I can
Let's
get.
not leave the Aggressor out because it's a great tire. If you lived in X location, where would this be your favorite tire of the bunch?
I actually enjoy it in the bike park because it does last and it does those other things. And for around here, Whistler, when it's wet, isn't that slimy other than...
Yeah, your tires clear out pretty decent because you hit a lot of puddles and it just like splashes all the mud out. It's not like deep mud.
But it's one of my favorite bike park tires.
Sweet. Well, there you have it. Okay, that was the Maxxis Aggressor versus Dissector versus DHR2. Now, which one of these tires would you put on your bike? You know the drill. Leave it in the comments below. We'd like to hear what you're rolling around on. If you'd like to pick up any of these tires, click on Russ's face right here, bring you over to a page on our website, and you can choose from three of these most popular Maxxis tires. Put one on your bike.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. That was bad.
Yeah.